group break purchase. You can reach out and contact Doug at Bankster17 with any questions. I am Sean Goodwin. I am Big Number 55 on Twitter. I am joined by Michael Gutadero, the Big Guta.
I love it.
And Doug, the Founder Shane, at Bankster DFS on Twitter and Bankster17. He's the man to reach out to and contact. You can also look at banksterdfs.com and join up there, $3.99 a week. There it is right there over Michael's nose. You can hop on and jump in and everything we got. Best Slack chat in the industry. And you get to see us. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just win-win-win. Michael, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm doing great. Today was quite the roller coaster of emotions. Woke up thinking that the Atlanta game was going to be canceled. Then it was false positives. Then the Indy game looked like it was in trouble. Then, nope, false positives again. And then we hear that the Patriots have another new case, but the NFL is telling the Broncos to prepare like they're playing. So, yeah, welcome to 2020.
It's pretty much, like it's at a point on Friday, I wouldn't even you wouldn't even worry about looking at much. I mean, we used to do this on Thursday. I mean, at some point, I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up doing this Sunday morning as a lead into because it's gonna just never end with the news. We'll just jump on at 8 a.m. and we'll just do a marathon every Sunday until lock because it's just chaos at the best of times. But it is what it is, and they're making do. They're figuring it out, and they're determined to get it done. So I mean, that's all we can ask for, and we can go along for the ride. Doug, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Things are going really well. Excited for this week. Excited that the false positives have been false, and hoping that the Patriots situation gets worked out. I'm a little concerned, just from a humanitarian standpoint, that the NFL is just giving up on trying to reschedule, and they're like, hey, we're just going to go with, we'll just get it, just don't get the COVID, two-hand touch or a little bit of COVID to be down by contact. I'm not sure, but right now, I guess we're going to roll with the Patriots in Denver and see where that goes. It was, threw the article on pause a little bit this week, but it is live on the website at banksterdfs.com. Moving the chains is ready to go, and let's hope I don't have to make too many changes this weekend. I like where we're at this week, so I don't want to make too many changes due to COVID.
No, I hear that. I waited till today to start the dirty slot and doing research and stuff for it. And like you said, there's a couple plays in the Denver Patriots game I like, so I was like, no. Then trying to work.
Yeah, it's disconcerting. We tried to get our articles up pretty early in the week. I used to post my articles Wednesdays, and now if I get it up on Friday, we're lucky. And it's just because of the lack of news. I'm not going to put something on Wednesday and then find out positive, and have to redo the article. It's frustrating, but on the other hand, we are getting the most up-to-date news. But it is a little bit off-putting when you're trying to build these strong lineups or put together new features like the dirty slot and I can't even imagine, Michael, how frustrating it must have been to deal with waivers this week, not knowing which day leagues were doing waivers and all of that garbage. It's just with the schedule, and it's insanity.
Yeah, I would say I just kept checking on Tuesday. No, on Tuesday. On Wednesday, they normally go through, and they go through on Thursday, and it's been a nightmare this week. But hey, these are the things that we're dealing with, and you just gotta battle through, and best we can.
As you guys know, every Sunday night while I'm watching when I'm watching that Sunday night game, I start doing kind of a first look cash game lineup before prices are released on DraftKings or anything like that, and had Justin Herbert in my first look cash game lineup for next week, except schedule changed and the Chargers aren't on the slate anymore. So it's like, why bother at this point? Let's just wait and see till Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. I finally locked in kind of where I want to be for cash this week, and it's like, good gracious, like this is where we're at, I suppose.
Good times.
It's rough, but we seem good, and it's time to talk some football.
Let's right on in here, and we'll start off. So we've got some 1 o'clock action. Baltimore is into the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia. Michael, let's kick it off to you. What do you like in here in Baltimore, Philadelphia?
Yeah, so this is, I'm going to start off probably a little bit of a snooze fest, maybe. But the Baltimore offense is not clicking even near what they were last year. Lamar Jackson had, pretty weak time of it last week. He only ran it twice. In fairness, the Ravens are really in control of that one the whole game. Burrow had nowhere to go. Mixon had nowhere to go. So, maybe they were in a little cruise control there as well. But, if you're looking to play anybody on the Baltimore offense, there's nobody here that I would say I'm into for cash lineups and all. Like always, Baltimore is always a viable, GPP stack with Lamar. We know the upside of Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. They're basically the entire passing offense. They're combining for about 55% of the targets, about 76% of the air yards on a weekly basis. That's it's great. The offense is concentrated. The running game is still in shambles. Gus Edwards on the backfield and snaps last week, and he did nothing with it. Engram's still doing nothing. Dobbins can't be found. The Eagles' pass rush is pretty decent. So, Baltimore could have a little bit of an issue there as well. The Ravens actually allow one of the highest sack rates in the league. They're like number 3. They're like the 3rd worst in the NFL. So even that, Lamar may have a little less time to pass than usual. One concerning thing I saw from last week, again, it's probably a result of a snap of the game flow. Just something to keep an eye on, that Mark Andrews played 43 of the snaps last week, and Nick Boyle played 39 snaps. So if Boyle's getting a lot of playing time and taking some away from Mark Andrews, that's going to sap away a lot of his value. I don't think it's a problem. I think, again, it's just because of game flow. But I'd keep an eye on that too. And frankly, the Eagles side, I'm not playing anybody. Maybe if I'm building a ton of lineups, I'll throw Miles Sanders in just because he does have upside and he's a workhorse back. But other than that, this Ravens defense is probably the top in the NFL, and they're just a team that you don't want to play any of your offensive players against unless it's just an absolute must, or you don't have any choice, like in a season-long league. So yeah, I'm off the Eagles this week.
All right, Dougie, what do you? I have some thoughts on this game, but Dougie will toss it up to you there. What are you seeing?
I wrote about this game a little bit in moving the chains in the GPP section because I'm not really on this game at all for cash. I just think the Baltimore Ravens are just not a cash game type team. Lamar Jackson's a little too expensive. I would want to spend down more at quarterback, especially this year when he's not putting up a 30-point floor like he did last year. Mark Andrews, the one thing that I'm not as concerned as Michael, he's not running as many snaps, but the snaps he's playing tend to be in the passing game, and he's running routes on a higher percentage of passing routes than he had been in the past, which is promising. It's an inconsistent target share on a weekly basis. So in a great matchup, I play him. Definitely not in cash. The one thing I do like about stacking Baltimore in general, and this is what I wrote about, was that if you're playing 10 or less lineups, maybe you're not using Baltimore this week, but if you're playing more than 10 lineups or 20 lineups or 150 lineups, you've got to have some exposure to Baltimore. And Baltimore's really easy to stack because you're stacking, as Michael said, it's Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, maybe the defense. You're not touching anything else. So you don't have to think too hard when stacking Baltimore. And if they click, you're looking at a 30-point game from Lamar, a potential 20-point game from Brown, a 20-point game out of Andrews. That's a pretty decent size stack. So that's worth playing. And then I'm also on the same idea with Michael. I'm not really in love with Philadelphia. I think Travis Fulgham is going to be. I wish I played him 2 weeks ago. I thought about it during the showdown slate, and I didn't say anything against San Francisco. And it's one of those sure you did, but one of those things that coulda, woulda, shoulda. Busted out last week. I think this week it's a little bit of fool's gold. They do love him. They absolutely love him. And if you're running a Ravens stack, I would run it back with Fulgham. He's good out there. Wentz loves him. Has already said he should be part of the rotation. Peterson seems to like him. The targets were there last week. His hands, there was something about his hands. He was just getting everything. And he had just that catch radius is pretty large. And so if I'm running a Ravens stack, I'll run it back with Fulgham. I think he's going to be more popular maybe than he should be in cash games at 4,400. The guy I would look at also potentially is Greg Ward, because everyone seems to forget about Greg Ward. Zach Ertz is not getting the target share that he used to. And Greg Ward is getting a shockingly decent target share right now. Even with full demoting last week, Ward had the 5 targets. He had 7 the week before. That's a really healthy target share for $4,100. Scored in the last 3 weeks. Not necessarily going to get you to the 12 points you need on volume, but if he does get in the end zone, he's a guy as another run back play. While we don't love Philadelphia at 44 and 4,100, those 2 guys are people you can throw in there just in case Philadelphia at home can get going with the passing game. They're a natural run back type of a play. It's not like we have to drop 7,000 on an Alshon Jeffrey type. I mean, he's priced down here because he hasn't played all year. But in general, when Jeffrey's playing speed, it's a high price to pay against the Ravens defense. For $4,000 as a run back, I play him. I'm not playing him naked. I'm not playing a Philly stack in this game. So yeah, that's where I'm at for this game. Sean, did I steal your thunder on this one?
Nope.
Oh, fantastic! What do you got?
Love Mark Andrews this week. Love Mark Andrews this week. I'm going to have a lot of Mark Andrews this week.
Cash or GPP?
I'm close for cash. I'm going to see who you're going to roll. I'm going to see who your tight end options are. It's funny. I had this conversation with somebody who DM'd me on the Slack chat, and I said, "Yeah, I'm liking Andrews, but I want to see who Dougie has as his cash tight end, just for the fact that it might allow me to spend up elsewhere." But Mark Andrews running out of the slot, right? Last week, 29 snaps out of the slot. He got targeted 9 times, right? He's got 22 out of the slot for the year. But here's what really got me going. He's third in the NFL with 15 red zone targets. And that's not third among tight ends. That's third among everybody. And he's second in end zone targets. That's what kind of put it over the top for me. The Ravens are going to be in the red zone a lot on Sunday. And basically, when they get in there, and if Lamar's not running, if he's not doing the zone rates as his knee, if that last week wasn't a blip, he's trucking it to Andrews. So I see a couple of touchdowns coming from Mr. Andrews on Sunday, and I'm going to be all over it.
I don't disagree on that from a GPP standpoint. I just worry, and one of the things I write for cash game plays is try not to be touchdown dependent. If we take the touchdowns away from Andrews, it's 11 points, it's 8 points, it's 5, it's 3 points, it's 10 points. Along with 10 points from a 3,500 tight end, 6,500, he's very down dependent for me. This isn't a George Cation, so I don't have Andrews as a cash game play, and I will discuss some cash game tight ends. But in a GPP, even as a one-off, I don't mind using him, because if you put him in as your flex option, even in a GPP, you're getting a wide receiver 2 type numbers at slightly below that kind of a price. I mean, he's the kind of numbers he can put up. He's got upside of a 7K receiver. So if you put him in at 6,500, and especially if you take a look at the running back options in the $6,500 range for a GPP, I'd probably want to put Andrews in there in a tournament before I'd put someone like Joe Mixon in a tournament lineup. So I totally get where you're coming from there. The upside is ridiculous. I just worry about the floor in a cash game.
And there you stole my under. I knew it was going to, at least we got out of the way early. So in my write-up, I have using Andrews in your flex spot as the new Bankster special.
I always have. I didn't read the article yet, Sean. You just posted it, so I haven't read it. Like, I wasn't trying to steal your thunder. We're just great minds think alike, buddy. That must be what it is.
100%. It's awesome you said that, but I have that in my write-up for Andrews as using him in the flex spot because nobody else is going to do it, and calling it the next Bankster special. As like 3 defensemen in NHL cash.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Moving along here. We have some indie. What do you got here?
All right. So first of all, this isn't quite to the level of my Doug rant why we're even looking at the game. There's a little bit in this game that is worth talking about, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot. I want to use Jonathan Taylor. I want to use Taylor in cash so bad this week because the guy is just, the matchup is good. Bengals struggle against the run. I really want to use Jonathan Taylor in cash. Can't do it. He's just not getting the volume. He hasn't gotten the volume since that one game. The passing game volume is down. He has 2, 4, 7, 10 targets, less than 10 targets in the last weeks. He's not getting big runs. He is getting tons, but 57, 68, 59. The yardage isn't there these last 3 weeks. And the only way he's even getting to double digits is by putting it in. I'm not running a cash game running back that touchdown dependent. That's just not getting 18 to 20 touches plus another 2 or 3 in the pass game. Like, I've got to get 25 touches out of my running back. I'll use him in a GPP. I'll absolutely use him, and I'm using him as a mini stack. One of the mini stacks that I wrote in my GPP, fun mini stacks you might want to use. I still don't have a good title for that section in the article. Is a Taylor with a T. Higgins run back. So I love that option. I do like T. Higgins in general even as a low end cash game play. If you wanted to go this low, because the volume's there. AJ Green's done. He doesn't want to play for them this week. They don't want to use him. He just can't catch the ball anymore. He's absolutely toast. Meanwhile, we're averaging 30 targets over 4 weeks. We're averaging 7.5 targets a week from T. Higgins for under $5,000. To me, he profiles like a $5,500 to $5,800 player, and we're getting for under $5,000. I think he's a really good play. He'll run from the slot. He's a big guy. Like, he's got great hands. His catch percentage is a little bit, but a lot of those throws are coming from duress with Burrow's just getting attacked behind that offensive line. But that volume for $4,700, even against a tough Indy pass defense, probably won't see a lot of Xavier Rhodes. So he's a guy I'm looking at as a potential cash game option. And again, as a run back with a Jonathan Taylor mini stack, I like that. I do think there's an opportunity for Nyheim Hines, especially if Jordan Wilkins doesn't play. Hines and Wilkins have been averaging about 15 to 20 touches over the last few weeks combined. If Wilkins you've got maybe Hines picks up some of that slack, Taylor gets some of it, but you could see 12 to 15 touches out of Nyheim Hines this week. And a game against a defense that does struggle against the running back, he's viable in a GPP, I suppose. My main play from this game is the cash game tight end. It's Trey Burton. I like the idea of spending down at tight end. I've got 2 guys that are pretty much in my cash game pool, and it's Trey Burton, and the other one's going to be Eric Ebron. We'll talk about him later. But boy, Trey Burton at $3,100 for the volume he's seeing. He's got 11 targets in 2 weeks. They signed him to be the pass catching tight end this year. Mo Alley Cox has already been ruled out this week. Cincinnati struggles against tight ends. Why would we not give Trey Burton a look this week? Again, it's a little bit of a Logan Thomas situation from earlier in the year where he's got volume, but he hasn't performed and put up the numbers yet. But even if we look at last week, he had 8.3 points on a sub 3K salary. He hit value. He pretty much one more catch, and we're hitting value on this $3,100 price point. Towards the end of that game, Phillip Rivers was really looking to Burton. I think he had one drive with 3 straight catches. Burton's pretty good in the open field too, and against a team that does struggle against the tight end, perhaps they'll give him a couple of extra looks, especially if Jordan Wilkins is out or if Cincinnati a little bit and they have to throw. I do like Burton a lot as a cash game, and it does give us, as Sean referenced, it gives us an option to spend up at other positions, and I think this is the week to do that. I think there's a lot of value in the mid to upper tier at receiver and at the upper tier of running back, and I want to do that. I do have a little bit of love for the Cincinnati Bengals defense in this game. We don't talk a lot about defense, but I like to call myself the defense whisperer. I don't know why. It's just I like to give myself a little bit of. But the Bengals prior to last week against Lamar Jackson, 3 sacks in back-to-back games. They're turning the ball over a little bit. 6 points, 5 points. That doesn't seem like a lot, but on a 2K price point, if you're not going negative, that's not so bad. Indianapolis, we saw what happened last week against Cleveland. Phillip Rivers is, when he gets turned, makes some real bad decisions. And if Cincinnati can continue backfield, Phillip Rivers isn't very mobile. He will get sacked. And he's also he might not put it on the ground, but he might put it in the opponent's hand. So he's turning the ball over. They've got 5 picks on the year. At $2,100, you can't really go wrong. And again, allows you to spend up at the other positions. I'm not stacking this game crazily. Again, I might do T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, mini stack, maybe even throw Trey Burton in there, but I'm not going crazy on this game. But there's one-off plays that I think make a lot of sense in this game, really at the low end of the spectrum.
Nice, Michael. What do you see here?
Yeah, so this is one of those interesting ones for me. I wouldn't say I'm in this game, but at the same time too, researching it and, kind of going through the stats and the numbers, it just like, this game just sits with me. There's just that feeling about it that it's going to be that weird one that goes off. And I found a couple things, to like here. I think we can all agree that Joe Burrow has been pretty good this year and has, looked the part of the number one pick so far. And all rookie quarterbacks, he struggles against pressure. So the first thought was, all right, well, the Colts probably are not going to be a great matchup for him. Well, they're getting pressured 30% of the time on dropbacks, which is pretty good, but they're only converting 16% of those sacks. So they're really only middle of the NFL in really generating the sacks. So maybe there won't be as much pressure as it seems from the outside. Tyler Boyd's, I think, got a very strong matchup in the slot against Moore, and while they haven't given up a lot, to slot receivers, let's also take a look at who the Colts have played against this year. Really, the only challenge for them, I would say, at receiver that they've faced, at least in the slot, has been Adam Thielen, and this was before Justin Jefferson erupted. So his snap share on that game, but I would think that Thielen was lining up as much outside as he did inside, and that's kind of where the problem lies. So if I'm attacking this game, I'm more likely to have Tyler Boyd instead of T. Higgins. I think Higgins is going to have trouble on the outside in this one. And and last week too, as bad as the Indy pass D has been, T.Y. Hilton finally started to show something. He had 10 targets last week. And and he had some nice targets there as well in terms of percentage of air yards and all. So I think there's some strong potential here for this game to be that less than 5% owned type of stack that can really go off here. So I'm gonna have some shares of Burrow and Boyd with Higgins. I'll maybe throw one or two of Phillip Rivers in there as well. And one other point on this, if you look at how these two teams played this year on offense, this is actually according to Pro Football Focus, the number 5 projected pace game of the week, meaning they're anticipated to be in the top 5 of plays run during this game. So don't sleep on it when you're doing your GPP builds here.
I feel like he's talking directly to me on this one. You want to board bet this one? You'll take the over. I'll take the under on this game.
Yeah, I will.
Nice gentleman's bet. All right, 46 total. Put it on the board, folks. Whatever board we have.
And the last. Sorry, one more point I wanted to make here. If we actually look and see who the Colts have played as far as their defense, who they've gone up against, at Jacksonville, they got 27 points. They struggled opening day a bit. Crushed Minnesota at home. Crushed the Jets at home. Won at Chicago, held them, and then at Cleveland they gave up 32 points. It was a defensive touchdown for Cleveland, but still. So as good as the Colts defense has been, maybe there's a little bit of a trend there that when there's a pretty good offense, that they're not exactly what is advertised. So I think what we're going to see what this Colts defense kind of really is made of on Sunday.
Where do you stand on this one, Sean? You were nodding your head vigorously before.
I'm leaning with the big Guta on this.
It's okay.
Darius Leonard is out. He's not officially out yet, but he's trending that way. He's now doubtful. The other one, the one that really kind of caught my eye was Justin Houston is questionable. He has 4 of the sacks that the Colts have this year, and if he's out, I like Burrow. I like Joey to have a little bit more time back there, and like Michael's. I mean, Jets. It's not like they were playing Kansas City and Murderers Row. I mean, Cleveland is looking really good this year. But I think the Bengals could be a little sneaky here. Tyler Boyd all day long. I'm right back to Tyler Boyd this week. I mean, even after last week, I might have got a little Galaxy brain against the Ravens, but I like a Burrow. Boyd stack, and maybe you run it back. Maybe you run it back with Taylor. I mean, GPP obviously, but I'm kind of leaning with Michael on this one. A little bit.
That's fair. I've been on an island before, and I'd be happy to be wrong. Trust me, I have enough exposure to Burton, and I'll have plenty of exposure to the passing game for Cincinnati, Jonathan Taylor, that I'll be more than happy to be wrong on this, particularly if it's Burton. I'd love to be wrong, but yeah.
Boyd went for 4 catches on 6 targets against Marlon Humphrey and the Ravens last week, and one of his was a miss by Burrow, like it was a bad drop. Like he could have been double digits on points there, so it wouldn't have been an awful play last week. But again, this week against Kenny Moore, without Darius Leonard in the middle, without Justin Houston on the edge, like give me some Bengals as well. I'm with you on that one, Mike. All right, along Detroit and Jacksonville, we got up next. Michael, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, so I think we got a lot of fantasy goodness to look at here. We'll starting with the quarterbacks here. Minshew is in a good spot against Detroit. Detroit actually hasn't been awful against the pass, but Minshew is putting up numbers. He's gone for over 300 yards 3 of his last 4 games. With 2 touchdowns or more in each of those games. And I think he's going to continue to be very strong here. I like Jacksonville a lot more if DJ Chark can play, and not necessarily I would run to use Chark. I'm not saying that he's a must play this week. I just think it opens up their offense more and it keeps defenses more honest. We did see on that Thursday night game against Miami when Chark was out that the Jaguars weren't able to do all that much that night because defenses were much less focused on Chark. Now we're able to focus on everybody else, and nobody else there is really, that number 1 caliber like Chark is to step up. I do think that opens things up for Laviska Shenault if Chark can be in the game. He's starting to be their clear number 2 receiver. He had 19% of the targets last week. He put up some nice points there. And this can be a strong spot for him in a game that should be high-paced and high-scoring for that matter. And if this is a high-scoring game, if Detroit really can, run it up here a bit, that concerns me a little bit for James Robinson. It is a great matchup here. Detroit has been bad on the ground and stopping the run game, but Chris Thompson played 30 snaps last week to Robinson's 43, and Thompson's the clear 3rd down back. Now, if the Jaguars control this game, it's fine, but you need a really positive game script that's starting to shape up like for Robinson to really be in there and kind of go off. So we'll see where that goes. But Robinson still is going to be a strong play as well against that Detroit defense, like I was saying. And then on the other side, the Jaguars are dead last in the NFL in pass defense so far this season. And that sets up beautifully for Kenny Golladay and I think for TJ Hawkinson. I think that this could finally be the week that Hawkinson breaks out. Each week he continues to run more and more routes and he's getting more involved. Golladay being back really helps. I think the bye week, even though very early in the year, can be very good for this Detroit offense to really figure things out and to look like the offense that they were last year. And even more weapons now. They got Adrian Peterson, even DeAndre Swift. And I think it's a matter of time before DeAndre Swift really takes over this backfield. They just got to give him the opportunity. So I'm hoping the bye week really put things together for Detroit and he's going to give DeAndre Swift an opportunity. Now, I can't use him in any of my lineups. It's just there's no reason to, nor is there enough evidence to suggest to use him. But I'll be very confident if he starts to get more playing time and more touches that we're going to see that breakout coming, and there'll be the week where we'll be able to jump on him before the breakout and hopefully cash in big time.
Yeah, if NFL coaches would only use the weapons that they have at their disposal.
Yeah.
We every single week we're in the just mind-boggling stupidity. These guys. Yeah, DeAndre Swift, but you know what? We're going to give Adrian Peterson, who's long since done. Let's run him out there, right? Like we're gonna we'll get. I think we're going to get to the. We're going to get to. Where is it here? No, actually, it's not even up. Yeah, no, it's coming up. There's a game coming up later. Well, I'll save it for there because we know the corpse is going to be run into the ground by Adam Gase, and for sure. But anyway. Yeah, just a puzzler. Dougie, what are you seeing in this game?
Well, I'm going to say a name that probably is going to upset you because I'm probably going to steal some of your thunder on this one too. But Keelan Cole, I like Keelan Cole in this game. I think Keelan Cole, especially if Chark is out, think Keelan Cole's going to get some work. Even with Chark in the game, Keelan Cole's gotten some work. And Detroit pass defense night, and Cole has been pretty consistent this year. He's gotten five targets in every single game this year. He scored 3 times this year. And while I don't want to be touchdown dependent in cash games, I don't mind in a GPP for a $900 guy. Taking a look at Cole, who will definitely not carry the ownership of Chark if he plays, or Laviska Shenault. So, and Cole's a little bit more of a deep threat. Hasn't done it that much deep, but has, again, the 6 targets, 6, 5, 6, 5, 7, tons of targets. Been in double digits 3 times this year. Hasn't had a stinker. I mean, listen, I'm paying $4,900. I don't want 8.3 points, but it's not 0 either. We've seen that a few times this year with a couple of guys get 0. I think Cole's, just regardless of who plays, is going to be part of that offense. And in this matchup, I think it's very, it's a good one for him. But I wrote the game up a little bit, and something doesn't sit well with me for this game. There's a couple of big games this week that don't sit great with me. And it's a complete lack of trust in Detroit and Jacksonville. The coaching staffs, the offense plans, that makes me scared to put too much stock into this game. That said, my current cash game lineup has James Robinson and Kenny Golladay. But right before we came on the air, we were talking about some potential shifts in cash game options to get away from that because Michael, you're right. The James Robinson just doesn't. The matchup's good. Detroit's been terrible against the run. But if Detroit starts scoring, Robinson could slowly start to get phased out of the game. Plenty of work in the passing game, but I think that's more within the course of the game as opposed to catch-up mode. When they're in catch-up mode or 2-minute mode, they're probably running to Chris Thompson a lot more. As you saw, or as you were saying, Thompson's running, was it like 3-2 on the snaps in favor of Robinson, but Thompson's still getting a decent amount of share. Robinson's got. Here's the thing, what's the point of target if you're still only going to put up 11 points? He has 7 targets, he had 5 catches, and only managed 11 points. I almost had him in a cash game lineup last week. I, talked myself out of it. But, last 2 weeks he's had 11 targets, a total of 25 points. That's just not going to cut it. So now I'm starting to think, is James Robinson more touchdown dependent? Because look at the weeks, that he has done well. He scored. Without scoring, he hasn't done particularly well. He's not Alvin Kamara. He's not Mike Davis. He's not putting up consistent points. You know who he's also not? He's not really DeAndre Swift in a lot of ways. And I know, Mike, you're a little concerned about using him. I'm not as concerned using him in a GPP this week. I do think the bye week's going to get more action towards Swift. Jacksonville has been awful against the run. And if they can give him more than 4 carries in a game, if they try to get to him and give him even a semi-commit, 10 carries, he's going to be okay because he's still getting that target volume, 5, 5, 4. But look at this. I mean, he had points without a touchdown. Here he had 9 points if you take out the touchdown. I mean, he's got a target volume that if the game becomes a shootout, if they start to give him a few more carries, if they start as that Adrian Peterson is not the future, and maybe we should let DeAndre Swift see what he can do. He's getting there a little bit on that volume. Especially at $4,500. It's similar to James Robinson, and that volume hasn't exploded, but he's also $2,300 cheaper than James Robinson, so that's a big deal. Kenny Golladay sitting in my cash lineup currently. I think he's going to be fine. When Golladay and Stafford are playing, Galladay's a borderline wide receiver 1. He's seeing the target volume. Hasn't put it all together this year in the couple of games he has played. Needed a touchdown to come close to value in either of those games. But this is a much worse pass defense than he had faced. If he sees upwards of 10 targets, he should be fine. I don't know if he's as safe as, say, an Allen Robinson, who I'm considering as a cash game option, given the potential price points there. But Holiday's in play. I just, if you're going hardcore this week in GPPs, are you feeling really good about running this game as your main GPP? I know we don't have Kansas City on the slate. I know we don't have New Orleans on the slate. Some of the other teams that we like to roll out there. Dallas isn't on the slate, but have we gotten to the point where Detroit, Jacksonville's our chalk that we want to play? I'm not so sure. I personally might be fading this, not fading, but playing under the field on this game, particularly for some of the higher end. I don't know. Something doesn't sit right. It's Detroit, man. It's Patricia. He's such a bad coach. I just don't see it. I'd rather go one-offs or a mini stack than a full game stack here. Sean, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong, Shawnee.
You're not wrong. It's this could be bad coaching examples like this. If you want to see bad coaching, watch this game. Like if you watch this game on Sunday, you're like 5-6 times. You're like, what the hell is he doing? What was he thinking there? Like talking about no. I mean Keelan Cole. He's definitely a guy on my radar for sure this week. Chenault is in. He was the carry designation. Chark is still questionable. But I kind of almost want Chark to play if I'm going to go with Cole, just because he'll take some attention away and then Cole can run underneath. But yeah, this game for me would be Galladay for sure. I mean, I'll probably run one Stafford, Galladay, Hawkinson type thing, maybe Jones kind of stack. I'll have Galladay as a one-off. I'll have Hawkinson as a one-off, but. Yeah, no, this game just screams bad. This this game is not.
It's disappointing. This is the game that I think can bust. There's 2 games on the slate that I think could be big busts, and this is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Moving along to a game that has been on off, and is now on again. So it seems anyway. Looks like Atlanta and Minnesota is good to go. So, Dougie, why don't you start us off here? What do you see here?
I don't think this one disappoints. I think this is the one of the games. This is the game, and I do think the Minnesota side is the side we're going to want in this game. I'm running Alexander Madison in cash. Y'all are running Alexander Madison in cash. I was shocked when I saw his price at $7,200. Actually, what had happened was DraftKings released their prices like Sunday night, real late Sunday night, and then pulled them down. He was $6,100. And they went and redid the prices and have it at 72. And I didn't want to pay 61 for him, but I was like, you know what? Who else is there this week? Like we're gonna play Madison anyway, because if Dalvin Cook was at 7,200 for this game, we couldn't wait. We couldn't get there quick enough to fire him up. The Atlanta Falcons have given up the most receptions to running backs in the league. This is the 5th year running that they've done this. Every year, it's just play your running backs who catch passes against Atlanta. I was hesitant week 1 to do that and got burned when Chris Carson had 2 receiving touchdowns. Like, if a running back catches passes, you play him against the Falcons. Madison will catch passes. He will get 5 or so targets. He will get 18 to 20 carries. He's a talented running back. This team will not change anything that they're doing with Madison as the starter over Dalvin Cook. He might not be as good as Dalvin Cook, but he's not that much worse either. And I think this is the right matchup, even at $7,200. You just got to have him there. There's a lot of talent at running back this week, and those with talent are not in the best matchups. And I'm not playing Derrick Henry in cash because he doesn't catch passes. So despite the great matchup, so this is where we have to go. We just have to suck it up and deal at 7,200. But I'm not running him as much in a GPP. In a GPP, I think you go Kirk Cousins. I think you go with Cousins. I think you go with Thielen. I think you go with Jefferson, and we know who they are. We know what they're capable of. I'm going to pull up that. They're getting targets. They're getting volume. This is almost the Baltimore situation where they're just not spreading the ball out a ton, and that's fantastic for stacking purposes. Jefferson's a little pricey at $6K, but boy, he pops a 60-yarder. Who cares? Like the matchup's there, right? Everyone scores on Atlanta. The one guy that I really want to take a look at in this game for a GPP that I think will be a little bit off kilter is Irv Smith. The Minnesota Vikings finally got him going last week, threw him targets, caught 4 of them for 64 yards. He has a 25-yard long, had another long-ish catch. The kid can get downfield. He's an incredibly talented receiver. They haven't been using him. Maybe this is the game that happens. If you take a look at what has happened this year for the Falcons, they're slowly morphing into the Arizona Cardinals from last year when it comes to tight ends. The Falcons have given up big games to tight ends every game but last week, and that was Ian Thomas, who doesn't count because Mike Davis basically runs the tight end routes for that team. Green Bay, Tanyan, 3 touchdowns. Chicago, Jimmy Graham, big day. Dallas, Dalton Schultz, big day. Seattle, we won. Greg Olsen had a big day. Everyone's having a big day against the Falcons. And I don't think it's going to be Kyle Rudolph. I think it's going to be Irv Smith. I'm not going heavy on him, though there's a part of me that wants to play in cash at only $2,500, but he can get you a 0. And I don't want to take a guy who can get you a 0 if they just decide not to use him. But Irv Smith at a GPP at $2,500, you could do so much with that team. And I just don't think people are going to play him. He's great as a run back, but if you want to a third option out for Minnesota if you want to go full onslaught, or maybe you put him in instead of a Jefferson and you run Thielen, Irv Smith, or even as a mini stack. Maybe you run Calvin Ridley and Irv Smith with a Detroit stack or with a Green Bay stack or whatever else you're stacking. Maybe you run him out as part of a mini stack. I really like him. Or again, even as a one-off. From the Atlanta side, I mean, they'll be fine. Minnesota's passing off defense has actually gotten a little bit better. Now that Yannick Ngakoue has figured out kind of how to mold into a Mike Zimmer defense, the Vikings have gotten pretty good. They've had 7 sacks over the last 2 weeks, putting pressure on the backfield. Matt Ryan doesn't throw a ton of picks, but there's just something wrong with this Atlanta offense. I don't know if a new coach, particularly a defensive-minded coach, and Raheem Morris took over, right? He's the interim coach. They're running it's a defensive scheme. They're probably going to try to run the ball a little bit, which is silly. But Matt Ryan has a touchdown in the last 3 weeks. He hasn't gone over 13 fantasy points in 3 weeks. Green Bay and Carolina are fairly generous defenses, and he didn't do anything against them. I got him from using Calvin Ridley. But if I'm stacking this game, because I don't think Julio, injured, healthy, whatever, I'm just not feeling Julio in this. Calvin Ridley's expensive at $7,800, but I still say you can get him in that lineup. And if I'm running this game, it's going to be Cousins, Ridley, a couple of the the Vikings pass catchers, call into the day. I also think the Minnesota defense, as I referenced, is a defense we can look at a little bit. For cash games at $2,300, I do think they're going to get in the backfield, cause some disruptions. Those 7 over the last 2 games has been really impressive against fairly mobile quarterbacks. I know mobile quarterbacks make more sacks because they're running around trying to make plays, but Matt Ryan is very able, and I don't know what they're going to be able to, if he's going to be able to do much against them. And in the last 2 weeks, 18 against Seattle, 290 against Houston's not great, but that was sort of a back and forth game. I'm just not feeling the Atlanta passing game. I just think they're just a train wreck, this team. But yeah, I think this is a good game to stack. I think this is one that this is going to probably be my main stack, is the Minnesota with the Atlanta run back. I think that's just the safest way to go for a GPP. And it's just got so much upside in this game.
This is definitely going to be a barn burner, I think, for sure. Hopefully Atlanta can keep it within range. Michael, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as Doug. The only thing I see a little bit different, with Julio back, that I don't think Julio is going to do much, or it's somebody that you're going to run to get. But I do believe that Julio being relatively healthy and on the field now makes this offense much more viable, because now defense has got to worry about Julio out there. They've got to worry about Ridley then too, and they've still got Gurley in the backfield, even though he's not what he once was. I do believe defenses still respect the fact he's back there. And you got a guy like Russell Gage and got Hayden Hurst at tight end. There are weapons here that Atlanta can do damage. So I think Julio being on the field really opens things up for this offense. So I do think that this will, it's going to be a high scoring game. And the passing attack should be a little bit of a leverage spot over the Madison chalk in GPPs, especially that, having sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, because even with Thielen and Jefferson being pretty high priced, people are probably going to lean towards using Madison and maybe find their receivers elsewhere. So I do like the stack of Minnesota, and I'm even going to use a couple of Atlanta stacks this week. Their defense still is not good. They're most likely going to be passing a ton against the defense that, while they've been getting more pressure, they're still allowing a lot of points. So I do think Atlanta has some potential here to put points up on the board. And, in having that Atlanta stack going, again, they may be, even less owned than what the Minnesota side looks like. And, having the Thielen bring back on, Matt Ryan and Ridley, again, that's going to be pretty expensive also. But maybe you throw in a cheap Hayden Hurst or, a cheap Irv Smith on this game to get more potential on this game and better bang for your buck on the value.
I just pulled up the stats really quick. The stats on Gage, speak to what Michael's saying. When Julio's in the game, in 2 games, he had 21 Did I say thunder, Sean?
You're 2 for 2, brother.
I really should read your article before I come on the air. 21 targets in 2 games with Julio, 11 targets in 3 games without. Russell Gage thrives as a wide receiver 3. He just does. If Julio's in the game, Gage Irv Smith sounds like a really fun mini stack to play with a different big stack, right? I mean, you're spending, what are you spending? $7,300 for two guys who can kind of go off. So sorry, Sean, I'll let you say what you want to say.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You know what? Like you said, like-minded, right? I was actually for the Julio news to come out before Gage will be in the dirty slot this week, just for the exactly what you said. 21 targets in the first 2 weeks with Julio active. That's all. Without Julio, and he became one of the focus, it was done. So with Julio out, or with Julio in, Gage will be in the dirty slot this week. I was just waiting for that news. So all good. Good. We are. Hey, when we agree on things, usually good things happens for Bankster members for sure. So that's nothing that wrong there. Moving along to the Washington football team against the New York Football Giants. I mean, there is just so much to love. I can't even say it with a lie. Who am I kidding? Take it. Go. Take it.
You want me to do the rant now, or you want me to off, or should I scream? Why are we touching this game? Why is anyone touching this game? This game's awful. There's nothing in this game. There's not nothing. There's always something. I always find some redeeming quality about some game, and in this case, it's going to be the Washington secondary receivers. Bradbury has been outstanding for the Giants, and I think he's going to shut Terry McLaurin down. He's shut down every receiver he's faced this year. But you know, the Giants are terrible. The slot. The Giants are terrible slot. Now, I'm not sure. Sean, maybe you can clear this up. Is Dontrell Inman running the slot, or is Wright going to run in the slot? Well, whichever one does, looks like they're going to be okay. Look at Inman. Inman prior to last week, it was a little bit of a struggle. 5 targets in each of the other 4 games. They have a real good feel for Inman, a real professional receiver, runs his routes well, great in the red zone, and for just $3,600 is a decent one-off if you want to take advantage of the Giants' poor slot play. But the other player to take a look at too, Isaiah Wright. I don't know much about Isaiah Wright other than the fact that prior to last week, and last week was an anomaly. The Rams shut them down completely. Alex Smith had to come into the game. The game was in the muck. It was awful. It was great to see Alex Smith, but that game, nothing was happening for Washington. 2 games higher, Isaiah Wright targets. The Giants are terrible. Other than Bradbury, the Giants are awful. Let's take a look at what we can do there. And so a minimum priced guy, especially if you're playing like an early slate or a showdown slate, if they run, I'm not sure if they're running a showdown one, or even if you just need a complete min-priced punt or a close to min-priced punt, these 2 guys are part of the offense targets, and if McLaurin's going to get shut down, maybe these are a couple guys we can look at. The Redskins are really bad against the run. Devonta Freeman's starting to see a little bit more work in the offense. They said his training camp is over. So cool. He had 19 touches last week. If you look at that this week against the bad Redskins rushing defense, maybe he puts up 12 to 15 points. He's viable, so maybe you run a real crazy mini stack, Freeman and Inman. That's something I never thought I would say prior to 3 seconds ago when I thought of it. But again, if you're playing in Atlanta, Minnesota stack, those guys are going to cost you over $7K each. You need to find some value. Maybe this is that value that you run out there. And it's not something I do in a lot of lineups, but it's possible that it's something you do, because if people are playing anyone from this game, it's probably going to be Antonio Gibson. Despite the fact that McKissick is seeing way too many targets and way too many snaps, we still had 6 touches out of Gibson last week. We had 17 the week before, 12. I mean, he's getting 12 to 17 touches. He's getting those goal line looks. $5,500. He's just, he's 3 or 4 touches a game or 1 broken tackle away from really putting up a big game. Kid's explosive. Definitely a standalone GPP option that I would consider from this game because the Giants suck. A phrase I use oftentimes in my article this week is Giants suck. And they just do. I'm a Giants fan too. They suck. My team sucks. So Gibson is a guy I'd look at. I really think Washington wins football game. So there's a couple of plays for playing, but you're not stacking this game. Why? You're not going big in this game. There's other games to play, even on a crappy week. And this is not a good week of football. There's just not a lot to love this week that I feel super comfortable with. This is still not a game that we should consider.
So before I hand off to Michael, what I did discover when I was looking at this game is that Washington actually does move McLaurin around, and he has seen time in the slot. Bradbury stays on the corner, does not move. He does not come into the slot. So I don't know if you want to. I mean, some a deep TPP. Maybe they move McLaurin around. Maybe they get him away from Bradbury. I don't know, but Washington does seem to do that. And then the other player that I was looking at was Isaiah Wright coming out of the slot. He didn't make the article because it's Isaiah Wright and it's Washington, but just some food for thought. If Washington get McLaurin away from Bradbury, there's some evidence to back up that they might make a point. But I mean, if I'm the Giants, what are you doing? You're going to have Bradbury follow McLaurin all over the field. It's just that Bradbury hasn't done that yet this year. I'd have to go and check out who play. Maybe maybe it's needed to, but just food for thought on that one.
And I'm not saying we should run 4% Isaiah Wright, but listen, I need someone to do the victory lap on if he scores a touchdown. And this was one of those guys I could victory lap on. Once again, we're thinking along the same lines on this.
Yeah, Michael, what are you seeing here?
I think this game we keep it very simple and we don't get cute at all. I got 3 spots here that I like. Number 1 is Antonio Gibson. I'm back on. I'm on the Antonio Gibson train again this week, like I was last week. I'm most likely using Gibson in cash again. The Giants' defense, the run defense, is just not good. And Gibson's workload keeps increasing every single week. Last week he played 66% of the snaps. He had an 18% target share, and he had 92% of the carries last week. So this is definitely going to be a game that is close. I don't think the Giants by any stretch are going to blow the Redskins out. I think Gibson's going to be in a great spot. And even if it is a negative game script on the Redskins, I think that Gibson's going to continue to see more and more time on third downs and passing downs, and it's just going to increase his value. It's going to come a time. I don't think if his workload continues to increase as it is, I don't think we're going to see him under 6,000 for much longer, especially when he gets a great matchup like this against the Giants. So I'm in on Gibson again this week. I'm going to have exposure to him everywhere, especially in cash. And, I'm expecting good results again. Second play that I think is very strong in this one is the Redskins defense. Now, they are a little priced up this week at 3,300, which is, always a little concerning. We don't like to pay too much of a premium on defenses, but everybody has seen the way this Giants offensive is performing, even with the addition of Andrew Thomas through the draft. And I think the Redskins are going to be capable of at least 5 sacks this week, with Chase Young absolutely wreaking havoc. And I wouldn't be surprised if the football team can actually even approach like 6 or 7 sacks this week, and that'll put them in prime position to cause some damage with a possible Daniel Jones turnover also. So I'm really liking the Redskins there, the defense. And lastly, the third play in this game that I do like, I actually do like Evan Engram a little bit here as a GPP one-off tight end. Tight end is not very deep this week. There's not much there to like, and if you're building multiple lineups, we need exposure to couple additional guys here, and I think Evan Engram is going to be a great mid-range tight end option this week. He's still running tons of routes. He's still seeing a good amount of targets in the offense, and he's finally healthy, and it's just a matter of time until his really takes over. And I think as the Giants' schedule starts to lighten up as we get closer to the second half of the year, and in the second half, I think Engram is going to be the biggest benefactor of that with Daniel Jones, and I think we'll start to see the two of them flourish. And I think this could be the beginning of a good start, or a good, finally starting the season good for Engram here.
Would you be surprised if I told you that the dirty slot play of the week is in this game?
Oh, I would not be surprised.
Not at all. Golden Tate makes his second appearance this year as the dirty slot play. Oh yes, I will. Oh, I will have some Golden Tate. Oh, I will have some Golden Tate. More about that on Sunday when I pop in lead up to locker on Sunday, but we'll get into some Golden Tate there. But love me some Golden Tate this week against that Washington defense. They're a little soft underneath there. Actually,
are you concerned with the fact that Slayton may not play this week? Does that worry you, or do you think he'll still line up in the slot and they'll have Board and Ratley on the outside?
That I would Slayton to play 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. If Slayton doesn't play, I don't like that at all, because if I'm Washington, I don't care about Bradley or anybody. Right. board rattler. Yeah, no. So I need this week to be able to do what he's going to do. And the reason, and just, I mean, what jumped out for me is who Washington has run through the slot for coverage. They've been targeted 38 times. They've given up 33 catches for 377 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let me say it again. 377 yards on 33 catches and 3 touchdowns. Like, oh my god! Like when I saw that, I started to scream for 30 seconds because I thought I clicked something wrong.
Yep.
Or I thought looking at something.
Yep. You're spot on, Sean. It's 2.36 yards a catch is worse than the NFL. It's unbelievable.
Like I just was like, I mean, honestly, Golden Tate probably even shouldn't even be in the dirty slot. He should probably actually just be a regular play because I actually like him a lot. But if Slayton, I want Slayton to, suck it up, get out of the field, at least run some routes, be there somewhere. If he's out, I don't like that very much. But we'll find we'll revisit this on Sunday morning when we have our lead talk, because we'll get that news. But moving along, we're into Carolina and the Bears. Michael, what do you got here?
This is another ugly one. There's not too much to be excited in this game. You've got an offense that's been pretty decent this year in Carolina, and we've got we got a Chicago team that hasn't been that great on offense this year, but has been relatively good on defense, and always pose a little bit of a threat, especially with that Carolina offensive line. Not one of the stronger ones in the NFL, and the Bears have some great pass rushers there. So this one's a little bit concerning as far as who may do what or how this could go off. But there are a couple guys that I am liking here, and I will start with Mike Davis. Davis is still priced now, but for his role and the workload that he's been getting, 7,000 is pretty damn viable. He's got at least 6 targets in his 3 starts, and he's got 5 or more receptions in each of those games as well. He scored 2 touchdowns, and he's the only guy getting in the backfield. I think Davis took like 92% of the snaps last week. Like, they basically just gave him off so he could breathe for a play and then right back in there. They didn't even use anybody else to, touching the ball. So, Davis is a guy that for, running back, which surprisingly is on the little bit of the thinner side this week. Davis makes another great play with his volume, and he should be able to reach that his $7,000 price tag. And I think another guy to consider here, which he's probably burned enough people in the past, but that's David Montgomery. I think we got to give a long look at him this week. He's really in that workhorse role now that TREY Cohen is done for the year. Montgomery, going up against one of the worst rush defenses in the league. And, Montgomery had 17 touches last week. Now, it wasn't a very strong game because Tampa has one of the top run defenses in the league. And that recency bias actually could suit us well in GPPs with people not looking at Montgomery and maybe going elsewhere. I expect him to be heavily owned, but I think there's a shot that people, maybe a little bit off on that national game that he showed last week. But he did have 8 catches or 8 targets. Sorry.
8 targets, 7 catches, 8 targets.
He had 8 targets last week, and if he's getting that type of volume too at his price tag, against the terrible run defense that just got burned by Todd Gurley. That's Todd Gurley last week. I think Montgomery's a really strong guy to consider here for your GPP builds. And one other guy that I do want to specifically touch on here is Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham has been a little bit, he's had a little bit of a resurgence here in Chicago. Now, he is priced up a bit at $5,000, so you really have to think long and hard if you want to use him. But, he's been one of the top end zone targets in the NFL. Foles has, drawn a pretty good connection with him so far here. And, Graham is, Graham is still running a lot of the routes. He's on the field for passing downs. He's not really blocking. So Graham's got a lot of potential here as well. If you want to pay up a little, slightly a little bit more than the mid range for a tight end, I think Jimmy Graham is definitely worth a look here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say what I got on this one. I'm gonna just head around over to Dougie here and see what Dougie's got coming back.
I feel similar to Michael in this game. There's just not a lot of GPP love. My biggest issue in this game is there are 3 guys I want to use for cash games, and I'm just not going to do that. I don't love running 2 running backs against each other, Davis, Montgomery, but they're among 2 of my top 4 running back cash plays. Right now, I've got Montgomery and Davis in there. I played around with my lineup a little bit. You might have seen me doing it just now. I was playing around with my cash game lineup, and I've kind of moved Montgomery in there over James Robinson and made some other changes. I'm not still comfortable there yet, but I like Montgomery, and the way my lineup works out, I could actually go Montgomery, Allen Robinson, but am I really playing 2 Chicago Bears? Like, is that smart for cash? I don't think so. Allen Robinson, since Nick Foles has taken over, is, just a monster. So maybe I'm better off playing Robinson and maybe going Antonio Gibson in cash. And I don't know. And that's a concern. It's like, who are we moving out? But I think Robinson's a great play for this game. The Carolina pass defense is not awful, and their rush defense is, though. And as our boy Josh Hook pointed out, the Hook monster, and Mike pointed out in the article, 14 targets in 2 games since since Tariq Cohen got hurt. And Dan Montgomery's getting 3 targets a game prior to that, and so now he's doing what he has to do, and the volume's going to be there. And it's hard not to have Montgomery in your lineup, but it's David Montgomery in cash. It goes a lot against what I believe for cash game lineups. And also, you want to talk about an ugly game last week? He had a touchdown and only 18.9 points. That's really hard to do, to get 13-point touchdown and 7 catches and only get 5.9 other points as a running back who saw 10 carries. Like, first of all, he shouldn't be getting 10 carries. He should be getting 16 to 20 carries and 5 or 6 targets a game. Nagy uses them terribly. This game is just, this game bothers me. It's so frustrating, this game. I like Carolina offense in general. I just don't see the passing game doing much in this game. As much as I like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, I don't think I can touch them. And if push comes to shove, there are more wide receiver options available. So you bench Robinson and you play Montgomery in cash, and it has Hook put it perfectly. It's gross. It's very gross. This is a gross week. This is a gross, disgusting week. There's not a this in this week. All right, make us some money, Sean. Who's our dirty slot player? Is there a dirty slot play in this game?
Oh God, no. There's not even. No, God, no. There's not even a dirty slot. There's not even a dirty slot play worth in this game. No, this game is Matt, and like you said, you have to head Matt Nagy is just another guy that just has no clue how to use his weapons or not at all. One thing I was going to say though is I'm with Michael on Jimmy Graham. One thing that jumped up to me is one thing I'll say about the NFL this year is a lot of offensive coordinators around the league are actually. It's shocking, as bad as Matt Nagy and Matt Patricia and Adam Gase, there's offensive coordinators that are actually getting it this year. They're using their weapons properly, and that means running these tight ends out of the slot. Jimmy Graham, 23 snaps out of the slot last week, right? And what did he do? He had a solid game, right? Now he's, like as Dougie mentions, he's a little more of the touchdown-dependent type thing. And at $5,000, his price a little higher than
big price.
Comfortable with, but if he's going to have no ownership at all, right? And I like the slot angle. It means that tells me an offensive coordinator is trying to find ways to get these guys the ball, or try to find them, get them in space, get them in right. You have athletic tight ends, use them. Crazy idea that is, eh? Anyways,
before we move on, Paul jumped in and wants to know about Mooney as a cheap GPP option. $3K, it's hard to say no with the volume he gets. I
think he's passed.
I'm not running out to get him, but $3K is I don't know why he's still sitting in his usage. He should be. I don't know what he's done that's got him priced lower than Dontrell Inman. So in that respect, yeah, if you're looking for a 3K guy, he's among those players that you should be looking at. But I'm not running out to get him. It's not like where I threw Zacchaeus into my cash game lineup last week. Speaking of dumb, by the way, getting a little too cute. He's a better option for cash than Zacchaeus was last week, but I'm not putting him in cash. A one-off GPP, yeah, I think you run if you want to run him with Mike Davis as a GPP mini stack, with a bigger stack like a Green Bay type deal, sure. But I'm not running to it. Michael, you don't see it differently than that, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Mooney's to me is no more than a one-off, cheap GPP option. And Sean, what you mentioned before about Anthony Miller, that Mooney is ahead of Miller. He definitely is. He's consistently running more routes, playing more snaps than Miller is, and Miller just kind of fell off the radar here a bit. I'm curious to know what happened with that, but Mooney is clearly ahead of Miller, so he's the number 2 there, and like you said, cheap GPP, go for it. You need you want a guy to really bolster your lineup elsewhere. That's fine, but I wouldn't touch him in cash. You're just going too deep and way too far there.
He's not in the player pool, but he's not like a total avoid either. He's a guy. He's there. He's usable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's out snap Miller now for on passing plays for the year now. He's passed him. So, for $3,000, if he's going to get 5 or 6 targets, hey, you could do a lot worse, right?
Yes.
Anyways, we'll go disinfect our hands from that. We'll move along here to the Houston Texans heading down to the Tennessee COVID Titans. Dougie, what are you seeing in this game?
I'm digging this game. I think this game has some real upside. Houston's offense has clicked a little bit last week. Deshaun Watson's looking good. Will Fuller has been weak this year. He's had one bad game the whole year. Of course, it was the week we all used him. Is when he did poorly, but he's been doing fine this year, right? You're not, if you played Will Fuller every week this year, you're aside from that 1 week, you're not complaining. I would love to see more than 15 points out of him, but at that $6,000, if that's a floor for Will Fuller, I'm good with that. He scored each of the last 3 weeks. He's not DeAndre Hopkins. He's settled into the wide receiver 1 nicely. I think Brandon Cooks is a guy that we can go back to this week. He's he got stuffed a couple weeks ago. He was fine prior to that. He gets 5 targets a week prior to the 0, but he still had 3 targets in that game. He just didn't catch them. I don't think we're going to see 161 yards and 8 catches and a touchdown. Doug was all alone on Brandon Cook's island last week.
Yep.
I'm not there this week. I'm not against Brandon, but I'm not. He's in the pool. He's a GPP, not cash game. I think AJ Brown's a great play this week for me. He's in my core cash write-up simply because of $5,600. He's just, the volume's there. He's got 17 targets over 2 weeks. Hasn't put it all together yet. Catching that touch Tuesday night, that's weird to say. Catching that touchdown on Tuesday was great for him, but he still got 15 points without the touchdown. So the 15 points on $5,600 in a cash game, that's fine. Gets 1 extra catch, 8 catches, maybe he goes over 6 points. He's in a good spot. They're going to keep throwing the ball. They're probably going to have to throw at least a little bit in this game. I like an AJ Brown to DK Metcalf in a lot of ways. He profiles real similarly to him. We don't worry about putting DK Metcalf in a cash game lineup, and DK Metcalf is pushing $7,000 at this point. I think Brown's just $1,000 too cheap. I have him in the Will Fuller price range, maybe a couple $100 less because he hasn't altogether quite yet. But for $5,600, he was the first I put in my cash game lineup, other than Alexander Madison. So I love AJ Brown in this game. Jonnu Smith is fine for a GPP, but I think he's a little bit pricey for cash. $5,200 starting to get up there in price. I do think there's an interesting combination for a cash game that I wrote up in the article this week, or not for a cash game, for a GPP that I wrote up in the article, and that's the Derrick Henry approach. So I've always been about GPPs. You have to tell a story. What's the story of the game? The general story for this game most likely is Houston's they're going to put up some points, and Tennessee's going to throw to catch up. So you do like Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Jonnu Smith, AJ Brown stack. Like, that's your game stack. That makes the most sense. Probably going to be the most popular. But what if Tennessee gets up in this game? If Tennessee gets up in this game, if you're telling that story, well, then maybe you're looking at Derrick Henry because the Texans are terrible against the rush. They've given up 160 or more rush yards in 4 or 5 games this year. Derrick Henry runs for lots of yards. He gets lots of carries and runs for lots of yards. Big touchdown guy, little touchdown dependent catches, but if you can get 2 for 10, 3 extra points do make a difference. That's half a touchdown right there. If you run Derrick Henry with the Titans defense, I do think the correlation between defenses and running backs, maybe you put Jonnu Smith in there, and then you run it back with a Will Fuller or a Brandon Cooks for, some of that catch-up potential if Tennessee does what they did to Buffalo. And we saw that happen, right? Buffalo was able to they threw the ball a little bit. They weren't very successful, but you had the Titans defense, you had Jonnu Smith, you had Derrick Henry all producing, and you don't run Ryan Tannehill in that lineup. I think that's a really interesting way to get exposure to this game. You get some exposure to the passing game for Houston, but if you can tell the story that Tennessee takes the lead in this game and just tries to ram it down Houston's throat, then that's the lineup to go with. It's the Derrick Henry defense-based lineup. I think that's going to be contrarian in a GPP. In a cash game, I think you're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry, even though I don't have him. But I like that approach for a GPP a little bit. I think that's a sneaky way to gain some leverage on the field on this game. And that's an approach I think I'm going to take this week. And the one other thing you can do with that is if you're running the Tennessee-based stack, you're not running a quarterback from this game. You can run a quarterback mini stack. Maybe you run a Marvin Jones, Keelan Cole, Matt Stafford, or you get a Ben, a Juju kind of a game. And that makes some sense. That makes some sense with this game, and I think that works really well for this.
Nice, Michael. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I'm pretty much loving every piece of this game to get into, my GPP lineups. Really, except for David Johnson. He's the only guy that I just want no part of. He's just done. He's had plenty of opportunities. He's seeing like 3/4 of the work. It's just not coming together. And this Tennessee offense, is a little bit, I think it's still a little underrated. A.J. Brown only being 5,600 is, I think it's just criminal. DraftKings waited until the Tuesday game played before they put their pricing out, and they still put Brown at 5,600. So I don't know why that is, but I'm gonna take advantage of it. I'll eat the chalk wherever I need to. I don't care. I think Brown is just a fantastic play at 5,600. And at the tight end, Sean, I know this is gonna make you a little bit happy. I think I'm gonna target again in GPPs the Houston tight ends. They've been playing very well. Jordan Akins is still banged up. He's actually not out of the concussion protocol yet, and he's dealing with an ankle injury as well. So even though he's questionable, Akins is very unlikely to play, and that sets up great for Darren Fells. Fells has shown with the opportunities, or even Akins as well, when one of these guys is out, the other one tends to perform pretty damn well, given the full opportunity. Watson has shown trust in his tight ends over the years. He's never had a big playmaker, but he spread it out evenly amongst those tight ends. So I think, using Fells could be a nice, cheap way to get exposure to this game as a one-off, or even involved in a stack if you want it to be a little contrarian on the stack, because it's going to be probably pretty high owned. And another contrarian way that I can play this game as a stack that I might look to is using Doug's narrative before of Tennessee being ahead and running Henry down their throats. But if you play it that way, you don't necessarily have to play the Tennessee defense with him as well. Use the Houston game. Most people, if they're stacking Watson, Fuller, and or Cooks, they're going to have an A.J. Brown bring back on it, or Jonnu Smith bring back on it. I don't think anybody's going to have the Houston passing game with Derrick Henry in there. If you're using that, you're playing. It works perfectly with Tennessee being up. If Tennessee's up, Houston's going to have to keep throwing. Like I said before, I just don't think David Johnson is any good anymore. So they could abandon the passing even a little sooner now, as this continues to be a trend. So that could be a great option to stack this game. Have some leverage on the field because of the way that you are stacking it.
Yeah, it's Michael just knows how to sweeten me up. It's honestly, I'm not surprised about Jordan Akins. It's too bad he took a vicious shot there.
Yeah.
Put him in this port, like it was bad. Like, so I'm not surprised he isn't cleared. It's disappointing because he's a playmaker. He's one of those guys at tight end that he can get out in the field, and Fells is more of your traditional tight end. He's a great play at his price. But I have Jordan Akins in quite a few dynasty and redrafts. I'm a little more upset about Jordan Akins than most. But the other guy that you guys did not mention, is back this week off of the COVID list, and he is coming in at I believe it's 4. Let me bring it up here. He's at
4K even. Yep.
And he before the COVID, he had 7, 6, and 7 targets, and he's going to be running out of the slot against the Houston defense that can be burned all day long. Eric Murray is the prime guy they use out to cover the slot, and he's been burned for $126 and 9 catches. And anybody else they've used has basically been just burned, like just turnstile on defense. So Adam Humphries, AJ Brown. How do you not play AJ Brown? Right? You guys covered it. It's $5,600. Like, yeah, that's just criminal. If he's not like 50, 60, 70% owned, everywhere, people are paying attention. I don't know what they're doing or whatever, but yeah. But as an add-on, maybe you run it. Maybe you run a 10, and maybe Houston does get up. Maybe you can run a 10 hill. AJ Humphries, maybe that could be a way to go. But I think Humphries at $4,000 is one off as well. You can use, for set, going if you go somewhere else, of course. But I'm liking some Humphries. He's not in the dirty slot this week, but he's pretty damn close. And he's an option to keep an eye on from this game for sure. Moving along. All right. Biggest game of the week, maybe the season. Talking about this game. This is huge. This is big time. It's the Cleveland Browns against I don't know, some other team. I don't know who they're playing. Dougie, who's Cleveland playing this week?
I'm not so sure. Pittsburgh, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I don't.
Steel City.
Yeah,
Steel City.
I don't talk
about the Pittsburgh Claypools.
Yeah, right. The Chase Chalk City Claypool week. Is this what's?
No, we ain't chasing chalk.
Well, yeah. DFS people love that chase. They love the chase.
That's why I have a bad chalk section in the article every single week. Bad chalk. Yeah. We got bad chalk in this game.
Yes, we do.
Are you throwing it to me? Should I be commenting on this? Did you throw it to me? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Yeah. You take us.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, I have Chase Claypool. He is my. Sorry. Hook just had to on that. So I had to just shut up on all of it. Let's Chase Claypool for me. He's my bad chalk of the week. That does not mean we should not play him. Okay, please understand. Bad chalk does not mean he's not a GP option. He is. He's upside. He's talented. He's very good. But prior to last week's explosion, which, oh, by the way, only happened because Deontay got hurt. I get that Deontay Johnson's not playing in this game, but it only happened because Deontay Johnson got hurt. Prior to this game, Chase Claypool was a rookie who was a deep threat to just stretch the field. He had 9 targets all season long. He had 11 targets and 3 touchdowns and rushes, and that's not. It's not. Don't chase it. I understand he could blow up again, and then I guess I look dumb, but I don't think I am. Even if he has a great game, we in a cash game, we go with what's safe and we go what's most reliable. And I just don't see anything reliable at $5,200 for Chase Claypool. He's only $400 less than AJ Brown. What are we doing here, right? It's a cash game. We play safe. GPP, go to town, do your thing. But I'm not touching him in a cash game. It's not there. Let's not forget that Ray McLeod, despite the fact that he get 11 targets, was used very similarly to Chase Claypool last week. There was a game plan in that respect in place because Claypool had 3 carries. McLeod had 2 carries. They were looking to get carries to their wide receivers. McLeod only had the 3 targets where Claypool had 11, but who's to say they're not using McLeod in the same way this week? We don't know. That's the thing. We just don't know. You know what we do know about Pittsburgh Pittsburgh. Juju Smith-Schuster's really, he might not have had the big blow-up week last week, but we're going to get to use Juju Smith-Schuster in a GPP this week at a ridiculously low ownership because everyone's chasing bad chalk Claypool. Use him in a GPP, that's fine. And I'm not saying we use Smith-Schuster in cash because who knows if Claypool is the next Miles Austin. Go look up that game. Miles Austin broke out against Kansas City way back in the day. I'm sure Hook remembers that. Way in the day. And out of nowhere. And then Miles Austin became who Miles Austin was. And maybe Claypool is that guy. But it's also just as likely that Claypool had a breakout game, as rookies can do, and then just goes back to doing what he does. And Schuster becomes the wide receiver one, which is what he is. He's had 5 or more targets in every single game this year, 4 or more catches in every game. He's still the most wide receiver on the team as of right now. He runs really routes. He's great in the red zone. And we're going to get him against a Cleveland defense that does not stop wide receivers very well. We're going to get him at a low ownership. I'm going to have half the ownership, a third of the ownership of Chase Claypool about that stack. I love that stack in a GPP this week. Cleveland is also terrible against tight ends. We know just don't stop anyone at the tight end position. Awesome. Eric Ebron got targets last week. I know he fumbled a couple of times. They only showed the one because the second ruled. But we worry a little bit about the reliability with the hands, but the targets are there. The targets, he's got 18 targets in 3 weeks. He doesn't need it to hit value. Like, he was 4K last week. We needed 12 points. Got 8. I wasn't unhappy with that. We were absolutely able to hit our cash game with Eric Ebron and Zacchaeus in our lineup because the rest of our lineup was strong because that's why we're down in a couple positions when we can. But this is a great matchup for Ebron. This is better than last week's matchup. So why wouldn't we go and use that? On the other side, Cleveland, I mean, there are options on Cleveland. There is some concern if Mayfield is really banged up. And he is. If Mayfield's banged up, this game could be really different. If Cleveland can't keep up the scoring with the Steelers, then I don't know what we're doing with Pittsburgh. But if let's say Mayfield is fine and he's doing his thing, Kareem Hunt is very much in play. Odell very much in play. Jarvis, if he's healthy, is in play. But a guy we want to look at, too, is Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper's target share has gone up and up and up and up every single week. He was up over 20% last week. He had 10 targets last week, 7 the week before. Put one in the end zone, and he becomes a real good GPP value at $3,900. I'm not there on a cash game yet. I'm not there because Pittsburgh defense is real strong. But in a G, as a run back, as a real sneaky run back, I'd be some Austin Hooper in this game. I do think this is a very stackable game this week. I prefer the Pittsburgh side. Sorry, Sean. But I do think there are options on the Cleveland side if Mayfield plays. Odell Beckham, upside for days. But, I mean, as you know, Paul is agreeing with me here in the chat. Our leverage play, a great leverage play this week, just play the best player, Smith-Schuster.
That's okay, Doug. I won't hold it against you. That's all right. I'm a Cleveland fan. It's okay.
I predicted Cleveland would win last week. By the way, I was on Cleveland last week. I had their defense. I was all about Cleveland. I was all when the matchup's right. I love them, but you know, it's
we talked. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Like, what if Cleveland won last week? And I mean, this is where we are, right? I mean, Mayfield. Yeah, Mayfield he's dealing with some with the ribs, chest area, whatever's going on. So good chance Stefanski plans for that, which screams Hunt and Hooper to me. Quick passes, get it out of his hands. Don't let him take too many shots. And against Pittsburgh, TJ Watt and those guys are going to be coming hard, and they're going to try to put Mayfield on his ass as early, as often as possible, and make him hurt. So I actually like Hunt a lot, and I like Hooper a lot. But before I keep going on here, let's Michael, where are you going in this game?
So I think my favorite leverage GPP play this week actually is in this game also, but it's James Conner. And if you take a look at Conner's price point, it's curious how high priced he is this week, but we know that he's the workhorse. He's going to get he gets the goal line carries, he gets the majority carries, and he gets the passing down work. So the guy is in the game the entire time. And again, looking at his price point, the 3 guys priced ahead of him are Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, and Alexander Madison. Those guys are going to be very popular this week. And the 2 guys priced two of the 3 guys priced directly below him are Mike Davis and James Robinson. two other guys that are going to be extremely popular this week. And then don't forget, even a cheaper price at 5,800, you're going to have David Montgomery that probably has a high ownership. Nobody's even going to be looking at Connor this week. And I just think it's a fantastic spot to get a workhorse guy at a very, very low ownership. And, you know, he can easily go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns with a couple of catches, you know, in a blink of an eye. This guy, you know, he's good and he can do it. And, you know, I'm expecting in this game, I'm expecting to be a little bit of a slugfest. I think it's going to be a run-heavy game with, you know, one of the better defenses in the NFL with Pittsburgh, and a defense that's a little bit on the underrated side in Cleveland. You know, Cleveland has had a little trouble protecting Baker, so that definitely could be an issue. You know, the offensive part of this game, you know, as a whole. So, you know, you can always look at the Pittsburgh defense. They, you know, they're always on the expensive side, but it's something, you know, that you can always consider. And yeah, that's really my big things here. And I love Ebron this week again. I think he's got a great chance to, you know, to really break out. He continues to run more routes, and, you know, he's been, you know, one of the more favorite targets for Ben as well. So I think he got some potential here. And just, you know, to kind of even it out on Claypool a little bit, just because he actually ran 50. He had played 52 snaps last week, but James Washington played 53 snaps last week. You know, a little curious there. So not only did you know, Ebron play 51 snaps last week, Vance McDonald also played 42 snaps last week. With running a little more full personnel potential. Deontay Johnson was hurt. No, they had 75 offensive snaps during the game. So, you know, as good as Claypool does look, temper those expectations a little bit, because he may not be on the field as much as you actually think he is.
If there's any player that's going to disappoint this week, it could be. I mean, just a high ownership guy. I'm so worried about Claypool this week.
Yeah.
I mean, last week, I mean, while that game was unfolding, because I had Juju and I got him in season long. I mean, I was whatever, but then I started thinking to myself, this sets up for this week absolutely perfectly for us, because everybody's going to chase this week. But Juju is, oh my God, he, like Doug and Michael said it. He's the guy. I don't care what anybody says. He's the guy. And he's going to be running out of the slot against Javier Thomas, another guy who's just an absolute turnstile. He's been targeted 22 times, and he's given up 19 catches for $1.60 and a touchdown. So we're going to get Juju at 5%, 6%, 7%. Under 10%, I think, is going to be a win for us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And I'm back. I wrote him up happily. It was the easiest write up for one of the easiest players to write up. He was one of the first guys in, because right away I'm like, yep, going right back here against Cleveland. It's going to be a tough game for sure. I mean, so those underneath guys, I think, are definitely going to be options for sure. And Juju is one of my favorite plays of the week for sure, especially because everyone's going to be, and Michael said, James Washington, Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron, Connor.
Now, listen, I do have to say, Hook is giving me a hard time in the chat. I just remembered why. I talked him off of Claypool last week. He's like, I think Claypool's going to be better. And I was like, this is before the week. And I was like, I mean, what's he done? No, I don't think he's taken over the wide receiver. And so that's why he told me to shut up. He's saying he's stud. But Hook did come through and say he's kidding. He's never going to roster him again. I felt awful talking him off it. Of course, if you listened to the live stream last week, I was discussing getting too cute and smart contrarian and not so smart contrarian. And my two examples of why would we touch these guys? What have they done? Chase Claypool and Travis Fulgham. So, maybe at the end of the live streams, first of all, maybe someone should stay to keep me in check next week, not give me uninterrupted 10 minutes. But on top of that, perhaps if some, Brandon Matthews, another one of our writers, has often said, "Oh, we should play like a good Juju, not Juju Smith-Schuster, but a good Juju lineup from the live stream, because we throw some players out there that aren't in the pool. But maybe you should start playing a guys I said. Oh, I'm just finding out. Oh, I did not realize this. Apparently, Mike said not to play Chase Claypool awful. Oh, I felt so bad all week, and now it's not just me. You were just as bad." Listen, guys, and this is to anyone listening. No one's perfect. We don't have a crystal ball. I don't want to say we're guessing because we use data and we back things up, but every once in a while things happen. That's why they play the games. Yeah. That's not why I put them on paper. We're not going to get 100% right. Nobody had Chase Claypool. No one by any right should have been playing Chase Claypool except for the deepest of GPPs. And we know that the guy who won the Millie had Chase Claypool, but it was like 1% owned because that's what the lineup builder told him to do. Now, listen, did Hook have an inkling on it? Yeah, he saw the snap count go up and Hook was on there. And I didn't think the snap count was legit. And Hook saw that. And we went with it could just be an anomaly. It could be this. It could be that. And, so maybe in this case we do that. But we also now see James Washington snaps go up. So maybe it's Washington and maybe it's McDonald. That's a good week. Or maybe it's Claypool again. Who knows? But, the data suggested otherwise. And, if you played them, good for you. But, it wasn't necessarily the right play. It just was it ended up working out. I don't know.
I mean,
it
was a fluke. I mean, they got hurt. It was a fluke. But at the same time, if your gut's telling you something, throw it in line. You know what you do? You always add more lines. When in doubt,
make more lineups.
Make more lineups.
That is the Bankster motto. When in doubt, make more lineups. Now listen. If Claypool has a big week this week, then it becomes a pattern. Then we start to look at, okay, maybe this is a guy that we're going to play more frequently. But again, in cash, won't touch him. Won't do it.
No.
I'll take the L this week. I'm good with that. Hook's making me feel better. Hook's a good guy. If he's making us feel better. If he was confident, he would have played him. Yeah. Thanks, Hook. We appreciate that.
Yeah. It took him 4 days to calm down. That's why.
Now, as we talk about the great plays that we talk people out of, don't forget that for $3.99 a week, you can sign up for that great advice. We have wonderful advice. No one hits 100% of the time. All right, move us on next game, Sean. Shut me up.
We have another game that is COVID this, COVID that, on, off, whatever. It looks as of now is on. I haven't heard it unless we've said something's changed since we've been online. But Denver and New England is up next. Michael, what stands out here for you in this game?
So I think the biggest thing that stands out. Let's hope that this game plays. There's potentially another positive test today, and who knows what's happening there. I know I did read from Adam Schefter that the Broncos have been told to continue practicing and everything through the normal routine, like they're playing Sunday, but this game is very much up in the air. With that said, there's a big storyline here to watch, and that is Melvin Gordon. It doesn't look like he's going to get suspended this week for his DUI from earlier in the week, but he did get sent home today with an illness, not COVID related. He tested negative, but he's been under the weather, so he's highly questionable now for Sunday, and that can open up a tremendous amount of value for Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay is only 4,300 this week, and I'm not the biggest Lindsay fan, but you know what? A guy that's going to get 90% of the running back snaps most likely, and probably 90% of the only other running back that they have on the roster right now is Royce Freeman, and we all know that he's just not any good. So Lindsay will be a very strong play this week if he's only 4,300, and that can even change the makeup of your cash game build as well. I would definitely. I would strongly consider Lindsay for cash if this game does play and if Gordon is ruled out. But you're going to have to be very flexible on Sunday with some backup lineups or ideas ready to go if this game gets canceled or if Gordon is playing. And the other thing with this game that I think is a very strong consideration is Cam Newton. Cam Newton, he's just been solid all year. New England hasn't played in a while here. But, his first 2 games of the year against Miami and Seattle, he did very well. Struggled a little bit against Las Vegas, but he didn't need to do much. The Pats kind of controlled that game. But, Newton has showed he's healthy. He showed he's still dynamic. And Belichick is going to trust him running the ball. And that's what we love from quarterbacks. We love that ability that he can run. He can break a big play. He's still got a strong arm. He's been a lot more accurate this year than ever in his career. So this is he's really showing something this year. And I think having Cam, as either a naked play in a GPP and kind of stack some other areas, or even as your cash game quarterback, I think you can definitely consider Cam as a cash game quarterback as well. I think he's got some strong potential here. This Bronco defense is not what not what we've been accustomed to, the past 5-10 years. They've got, a very weak pass rush, no secondary. The Pats could put some points up here, and the Pats running game, Damian Harris really showed something 2 weeks ago, but at the same time, he's not working in the passing game, and he's relegated to a positive game script and to touchdowns at this point. So, with James White and Rex Burkhead still hanging around, Harris, Harris is probably someone you want to avoid. Maybe GPP, you can get him into a couple lineups. He's a nice savings of 5,000. The kid's talented. Let's not forget that he competed with Josh Jacobs at Alabama, and for a while pushed Jacobs to the bench and was taking over the role there. So there's definitely something with Harris and his talent. It's just a matter of him really getting the full blown reins here, which I don't think Belichick will do. But in a game that the Pats could win, you could see, as they like to say, that story where Harris gets 15, even potentially 20 carries that the Patriots are controlling all game.
Yeah, I have some Damian Harris too. So he seems to be run dependent, or game script dependent. Dougie, what are you seeing here?
Nothing. Cam is a preferred.
Dougie sees nothing. Let's see how long. Let's see how long he take. How tell us about this. How he sees nothing. Let's see. Go ahead, Dougie. Go ahead.
You've learned. I've recoded how I use our player pool for the Moving the Chains article, so I don't have my tiers anymore. I just go with the cash or one-off kind of deal. Cam is a preferred cash play. He's not the number one cash play for me, but he's a preferred cash game quarterback. He is cash viable if Melvin Gordon is out. That's it. Give me a bird and a GPP maybe. I'm not going to play this game. I'm not touching this game for the most part. No.
Well, then I have two plays from this game actually in the dirty slot this week. Julian Edelman, which is really not that big of a stretch, but kind of love Julian Edelman with Cam Newton back. He's definitely in play for me, and he is in the article. He's going up against Bass. He's been burned for 120 and a touchdown on 12 catches. Even if the Patriots should win, they should get up. I think Edelman might be the guy that gets him there. That's what I'm banking on. And on the other side, actually, I'm liking some Jerry Jeudy. He's as boom or bust as exists, but Denver's determined to get this kid the ball and get the ball downfield. He's his air yards and everything. They're making a point to getting him down the field. He's not catch would like. He's got one of the lower catch rates in the league, which is obviously not good. But they're peppering him, and he's going to be running out of the slot this week. I like him a lot. He's going to be going up against Jonathan Jones. He's been giving up 15 catches on 23 targets for $173, and so I kind of like Jerry Jeudy as a one-off. Drew Lock is apparently back as well. If I saw that correctly, he's trending back to playing. So that's kind of where I am for this game in the slot. But we'll touch a little more on that on Sunday. And that's about it for the Birds looks interesting in the GPP as well. So that jumped out to me too. So kind of on the same page on that one. Moving on to another beauty of a game. Just loving this. This is just I don't have enough superlatives to describe this game. So I'm not even going to say anything about it. So we're just going to move along here to Dougie and what he has on the Adam Gase New York Jets going down and playing the Miami Dolphins.
Kind of don't hate this game. I kind of like this game. This is not my why are we play. I wanted this to be a why are we playing this game. And if this little icon here on DraftKings about rain comes to fruition and it's a lot of rain, that's going to kind of suck. But if it's mild rain or normal Florida rain, I'm not too worried about this game. There's actually some stuff I like here. Ryan Fitzpatrick in cash, yes, please. 5,900 opens up a lot of possibilities elsewhere for your lineup. A nice, it's about as low as I'll go and it's down. But he's sitting in my lineup now. I was looking at some other quarterbacks higher up, like a Cam and a couple other guys, and I just keep coming to Fitz. Look, I mean, 25 or more points, 4 straight weeks, 2 more touchdowns in 3 or 4 weeks, 300 yards in 3 or 4 weeks. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Jets suck. They're so bad. So,
when?
Right?
They're 4-5. Cutting edge right here from Bankster right now.
They're pretty awful. And so I do have some concern about the Dolphins getting too far up. But, if they're getting far up, they're not doing it because Myles Gaskin all of a sudden decided to run for 300 yards, which, of course, will happen now. This is my anti-Chase Claypool, Travis Fulgham moment. But and I do like Gaskin, by the way. He catches enough passes that he's GPP viable. But look, we're looking at Parker and Williams. I mean, Williams had a little bit of a resurgence last week, if memory serves me correctly. And it looks like he's starting to get healthy. Part of this offense, people were dropping season long. That's a bad mistake. He's got the 5 targets last week. 100 yards, big deep play threat, touchdown in 2 of 3 weeks. Jets are a really good team to get healthy against. I have no problem running Parker and Williams with, and quite honestly, Jamison Crowder, right along with AJ Brown, is part of my cash core. Put him up, and why wouldn't you? Dude has 10 or more targets every single week, 100 or more yards every single week. If you take touchdowns out of the equation, he has still scored 20 or more points every single week. He is the anti-touchdown dependent guy. Like, he is not touchdown dependent is all. He can hit you your 18 points on volume alone. Thank you. Yes, please give me all of that. Who else are they going to throw to? Well, they are going to throw to Jeff, who I'm going to talk about. But Crowder, it's a cash game lock, and he's a good run back in this game, I think, because the Jets are going to have to throw. But let's look at Smith. I don't understand the $3,000 price tag. This is the same thing as Mooney. I don't get why this guy's cheaper than Don Hinman. He's getting targets. He has targets over the last 2 games. His target share went up. He's not catching a ton of balls because the Jets suck, but the tips are there. They're throwing to Crowder. They're throwing to Smith. That's all they do. Well, hello, at $3K, you run him in as you run a Fitzpatrick, Parker, Williams, Crowder, Jeff Smith. If you think the game's going to get a little wild, and we know Jets and wild historically. I know this isn't Dan Marino and Ken O'Brien, but we've seen this happen. This happens, right? So you put those guys out there, you can spend up at tight end. That's where you get a Mark Andrews in play. You can't at tight end. You don't use flex. That's where you can spend up on a Pittsburgh or Indianapolis defense. It's how you can get a Mike Davis and a Jonathan Taylor or a high-end running back because you're going to go low other than Parker. I mean, it's pretty cheap stack to run with. I love it. So we talked about Ryan, and we talked about Chase Claypool as my bad chalk of the week. My running back bad chalk, and I don't know how chalky they're going to be, but any ownership is too much, and that's going to be Gore and Pirine. Or we've seen what Gore can do when Le'Veon Bell isn't in the lineup. He doesn't do anything. He makes Adrian Peterson look spry. We're not running Gore in this game. Like, Gore could score 4 touchdowns, and I wasn't wrong for not playing Gore in cash. There's just no reason to touch Gore. I do think Pirine has interesting possibilities for a GPP upside. According to Gase, and what does Gase know? But according to Gase, they're they're limiting his workload to give him an opportunity to do some things. I mean, they don't want that last week, didn't they? That's what it is. They showed it last week. But look, it says right here, he's definitely got a bigger role. Well, a bigger role than 0 could be 1 carry. Look, we saw in week 3, 7 attempts, 2 receptions. Maybe that goes up to 10, 12 rushes and 4 or 5 targets. I'm at 3% LaMichael Pirine. That's higher than I would think. But he's not completely out of them. There is some GPP upside because what if the kid could do something? He was explosive in college, and so they got rid of Le'Veon Bell for a reason. And I don't think it's to give Frank Gore 25 carries. It's probably to tank for Trevor Lawrence. They were getting Trevor Lawrence with Le'Veon Bell on the team. So maybe they give some extra work there. And like I said, Gaskin is definitely in play. Still at 5,400. The volume is there. He's been getting the rushing volume, but the reception volume is outstanding. This is what we want Gibson to see: 22 to 16 attempts, 5, 4, 5, 7. I mean, there too, even without the touchdowns, he's had 14 and 9, and last week he had a touchdown, so you get there, it's 14. I mean, he's getting about 14 points a game on volume alone, and on $5,400, there's some upside there. Possible option, I'd probably prefer Gibson in the matchup. A possible cash option if you want to spend down, but definitely a GPP option. There's a lot to like for this game, shockingly, for a Jets game. There's a lot to like. And maybe the Jets fan sees it differently. I don't know, but I think I'm using this game for sure.
Yeah, there's I have some options. I have one that I'm looking at. But Michael, what do you got here?
Doug, I noticed that you did not mention Joe Flacco. Are you not playing him this week?
I made the mistake of recommending that to one of our members, Mark, last week, and poor guy dropped the maker lineup with Joe Flacco. The lineup wasn't half bad, I'll be honest, but Flacco ended that was pretty stupid. We got a little crazy last stream talking about a jet stack. No, I'm not going.
I know. I got. Don't worry. I'll be there the entire time this week. I'll keep you in check.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean this week, this game is pretty simple. I mean, on the Jets side, you're only playing Crowder. I do love Crowder for cash. I mean, again, he's the only guy for them to throw to. Gase loves throwing it to the slot, and Flacco can't throw it deep. So Crowder's the check down Charlie guy, and it's just he's gonna be peppered with targets again. I wouldn't be surprised he sees 10 targets or more, and it's a good spot for him. And the other side, I think Miami is viable everywhere. I think all these guys are very playable. I'll avoid this week on the Miami end is Mike Gesicki, and that is because Preston Williams is playing more. Preston Williams, his routes run went up to 74% last week. That's a huge uptick from where he started the season. And last week, Gesicki only played 30 snaps in the game. Not very good. He was not on the field a lot. He actually got out-snapped by fellow tight end Adam Sheen. So, it looks like Gesicki's fallen out of favor after that that blow-up game. Gesicki did, he did make the most of his opportunities last week. So, he could be, but the Jets have actually been surprisingly decent against the tight end. And I'm just not really feeling Gesicki. I'm looking at Parker. I'm looking at Preston Williams this week. And, Myles Gaskin's a great play there too. And the only other thing that I want to mention, don't be afraid to use the Dolphins defense this week. They may be a little popular because of what they did against the 49ers last week, but looking at their numbers here, they're actually number 7 in the NFL in sacks. Yep, number 7 in the NFL in sacks. And every game this year, they've recorded at least 1 sack and 1 turnover. And this Jets team that the offensive line is in shambles yet again. They're gonna get to Flacco. Flacco can't move. They're gonna get at least 1 or 2 sacks at an absolute minimum. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Flacco throw an interception. In this one, the Dolphins do have a very good secondary. And not off on the shoulders here, but I was recommending the Dolphins as a late defense in best ball this offseason, and so far they've been pretty good. They're getting pressure, they're getting to the quarterback, they're creating turnovers, they're making the opportunities. I think the Dolphins defense could be a nice play this week.
Hey, pat away on that. I had them as part of one of my 2 defenses in the Defense Whisperers. Them in Cleveland turned out pretty well. So you're dead on with the Dolphins defense. I'm just looking really close to see if Sean's crying as you went against Gesicki. I know Sean loves him some Gesicki in general. No, I don't see any tears. So that might be who we wanted to talk about.
No, I did. I checked in on Gesicki. Checking it out. He did make the cut for the slot this week for me, which is kind of bizarre. This is bad coaching again. Gesicki should be up there, used like Waller and Kittle and these guys. I mean, he's a playmaker, but that's a rant that I don't want to worry about right now. But as you guys mentioned, so my captain obvious play of the week for the dirty slot is Jamison Crowder, which is like Doug, if you can bring up the wide receivers here.
Sorry, I was trying to guess which guy you'd go with. I didn't think you'd just go with Captain Obvious.
Well, Jamison Crowder. He's the obvious play of the week because it's obvious you should be playing him for everything that's been said. Targets, volume, everything. Who they're going to throw to? It's ridiculous. But what is kind of funny? So last week I got him at 4%, and what is the puzzling all this is if you look at his stats here. Let me just bring it up here. So he had 28 points, touchdown, 10 catches, 8 catches, 116 yards. You know, Doug, if you can close his box, close out Crowder, and just look at the wide receivers in his price range here.
I would love to if my computer's fast enough. My computer is like me, old and slow.
Okay, so if you scroll down here to Mr. Crowder, where is he?
There's Mr. Crowder.
Okay, look at all the receivers around him in price this week. Galladay, Anderson, Jefferson, DJ Moore, Tyler Boyd, AJ Brown. Nobody is playing Crowder again. I have him projected for 5% or just under 5% again this week. That's baffling to me for the volume, and like Doug says, you take away the touchdowns and you're still getting 18, 20 points. Like you're still getting the points.
Hasn't gone under 20 points just on volume the entire season. In all 3 games he's played, he has been at least 20 points on volume alone and then touchdown upside. It's ridiculous.
Crowder's 100% in all my cash, and he's one of my top one-offs everywhere with all my stacks, and I'm going to try to cram him in with everything I do. He's Captain Obvious play of the week for don't overthink it, don't get cute. Crowder, move on.
What's crazy is you have his Captain Obvious, but at under 5%, I'm not so sure how obvious he is to a lot of people, which is mind-blowing at this point that we're not buying into Crowder yet. At one point, he'll disappoint, I'm sure, but, I mean, are there going to be any games the Jets are just going to pound in the ball to run out the clock? They're going to have to play catch-up,
exactly,
and they just don't have that many hits. And you know what's really standing out to me about Crowder is he's known as sort of an underneath kind of a guy. Every single game this year, he's had at least a catch of 35 or more yards. That's great. Those chunk plays are outstanding for him.
It's mind-boggling. Like, and this is how the dirty slot came to be, is because these guys are going under. Like there's something to target here, and it's working out really well. I mean, Jamison Crowder under 5% is just criminal. I love a Gaskin Crowder mini duo stack for sure this week. I'll have that roll on 100%.
Well, like that.
Might
add that to the article. Might have to add that to our mini stacks meet. That might be fun. I think I'm gonna have to add the little Sean stack there.
Hey, Crowder, Gaskin. I mean, what's not to like about that? You know the Dolphins are going to be up. You know the Jets are going to have to throw. Joe Flacco isn't throwing it 60 yards down the field. He's throwing underneath. Chris Herndon can't catch a beach ball, right? Frank Gore.
Paul agrees. Paul says Herndon can't catch. Oops, Herndon can't catch. Paul knows. Paul wins a lot of DFS. People should definitely listen to anything Paul says, either if it's on Twitter or in our members only Slack chat. You should listen to what Paul has to say. Paul knows. I think we lost Michael.
If you get the Paul stamp of approval, then just don't even question it. Lock and load and get it in there.
He wins a lot.
But yeah, play Crowder.
All right.
Don't move it along.
Let's take it home. We're getting there. We're getting done with this 11-game slate.
Green Bay and Tampa Bay. Dougie, what are you seeing here?
This is the other game that worries me this week. Something doesn't sit right with me with this game. I wrote it in the article, and I wrote it up as a game that you have to play this game, right? Like, I think you have to stack this game if you're playing a lot of stacks. I mean, it's got the highest total on the slate, but something's not right about this game. I think part of my is I worry about the Green Bay offense with Devontae Adams. I know it sounds crazy, but Aaron Rodgers has been playing out of his mind with Adams not in the game, not on the field, because he's been spreading the ball out a lot. I don't think that's going to stop Aaron Rodgers from playing well in this game. I do think it's going to hurt guys like Valdez-Scantling. I think it's going to hurt Robert Tonyan. I mean, Aaron Jones is going to be Aaron Jones. He's got a high ceiling, low floor. We know that he's very volatile, his performances. Adams is going to be fine. Rodgers should be fine. But the Tampa Bay defense isn't horrible. And boy, Rodgers just focuses on one player and that's always been his MO. Brett Favre did it too, really. This team, they just like to focus on one receiver, and that's great for Adams, but you're just the stacking past that, you're risking some real low floors. I think on the other side of the ball, I do have some concern to Chris Godwin coming back. Mike Evans has been highly efficient this year. He hasn't been putting up huge reception totals, but he's been great in the red zone. I mean, he's catching so many touchdowns. But when Chris Godwin plays, it's like a toss-up. Who do you play, Godwin or Evans? Very rarely do you see a game where both Godwin and Evans do well in the same game. That makes me real nervous to stack this game. I don't know where to go with this game. I do think that, you want to go maybe Aaron Jones against a really good Tampa Bay run defense is a guy you can play because Jones is going to catch a bunch of passes. He's multi-talented. And Ron Jones is someone that I just think we're sleeping on. I think I've got him in cash game consideration. I don't have him in the lineup currently just because Keyshawn has been coming on the field a lot in passing downs, and I'd like to see. I mean, he's still got those 5, but I'd like to see him playing a little more on third down. But he's rushed for 100 yards each of the last 2 games. He's got some decent volume. The Green Bay run defense is not very good. Jones is the way you go. Maybe you go Green Bay with the passing game and you run it back with Ronald Jones. I mean, there's some potential there. I do think if you're looking at the tight end, I think Tanyan could struggle in this game. And of course, the last couple times Tanyan's been out there, I haven't, and he's done well. I haven't played him, so that was dumb. But I think if we're overboard with Tanyan, if Rodgers is going to play more Adams, maybe we look to Cameron Brate as a tight end option game. I think he's better than Gronk right now. I'm not so sure Gronk is all that good anymore. Brate did what Brate does: 5 receptions, 44 yards, low ADOT, a decent number of targets. If he scores, he crushed value in this game. But even then, 5 for 44 is pretty close to value at $3,500. Brady's going to give Gronk some looks in the red zone, but Brate's better. Brate's just better at this point, I think. He's a more reliable receiver. Gronk had the targets. He'll get you a big play here and there. He's just not very reliable. And almost $1,000 more. I'd almost rather run Brate in this game. Either quarterback should be okay. I don't disagree with you. Tom Brady's going to be very popular after his 5 touchdown game. And he's fine. I just don't. I'm not going. He also has a couple, just 1 touchdown, so it's like a monster this year. Two games ago. Sorry, last game was the 4th down twice game. He doesn't know how to count. That's amazing. Great now though. That's wonderful. But he didn't look great against Chicago. Rodgers has been great. I mean, true this year. But again, I don't know if he spread the ball enough to overly back this game. This game should be good. And there could be points in this one. It's got total, but something doesn't stick right. And it sucks because this is a good late game hammer type of game. But boy, I want to tell you right now, I'm more likely to use the Jets-Dolphins game for my late game hammer stack and to really get some leverage. Because if people want a late game hammer, there's only 2 late games. You want to get a real low ownership, go to the other game in this one. This one I think is going to be a real chalky game, and I'm not feeling it. Michael, maybe you feel something a little bit different about this game. You can make me feel better about playing the guys in this game.
No, I'm not. I'm not
Just
that excited.
Just before I just realized we're looking at Doug's screen here, and I'm looking at Sunday at 10 a.m. and I'm thinking, wait a minute, are they? What's this 10 a.m.? And then I'm like, wait a minute, Dougie's in Vegas, and for him, it's
West Coast is the best coast, my friend.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, what the hell?
Kickoff. Heck yeah.
25. What do you like? Anyways.
Vegas, baby. Vegas start times.
I'm old as well. Anyways, Michael, sorry to
Yeah. Well, just not to go off too much on a tangent, but that was always my favorite part about being out in Vegas during football season was that, the Sunday night game is over and then, still got time before you go out. It's great.
Yep. Yeah. It is wonderful. If I ever leave Vegas, if I ever come back east, that's the thing I'll miss most is just waking up and hitting up the football, because wait until 1 o'clock. I don't know how y'all do it. It's crazy.
I pace throughout the day. I pace in the morning.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I would tinker way too much with my lineups. Being out here is great. I can't legally play, and even if I could, when I go to California to make lineups, I can't tinker because I have to live. I wake up, I cook breakfast for the kids, I live stream, and I watch the game. Like, no tinker time.
I usually end up doubling my line Sunday morning. Mike, what do you got here?
Yeah, so in this game, I'm really only looking two places. The first is, well, actually, I should say three. So first is Aaron Jones. We're only a little bit deeper in GPP, just because Tampa's run defense is just it's fantastic for the second straight year. They've been pretty much shutting down everybody. But when you get a guy like Aaron Jones, who not only is he the highest priced running back on the slate in a tough matchup, which is quite curious why he's priced where he is. It's going to be a great leverage with the amount of work that he does get in such an integral part of this offense. He'll be very low owned, so it's just a nice leverage play there. You got to have some exposure to him. And the other part of the Packers offense, I mean, you got to have exposure to Devontae Adams just because he's Devontae Adams and he's going to get peppered with targets. And you don't want to not have exposure to him if he 10 catch, 120 yard, and a touchdown type of game. So I think you got to have some exposure there too. But Tampa's defense, again, has been very good. They're a little bit softer against the pass, but they have a fantastic pass rush. I think they're number 3 or number 4 in the NFL in sacks this year. And it always seems like Rodgers is scrambling from pressure. I mean, he does a great job of avoiding it, but we see those games where the pressure just gets to Rodgers, and next thing you know, Rodgers is just going down before the rush gets there, and the team accumulates 6 sacks. So that's something to watch out for here. This game's probably going to be a lower scoring than anticipated, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes under the total even. And on the Tampa side, I'm actually more concerned about Ronald Jones because of Len Fournette. It looks like he's going to play this week, and and again, I'm of the belief they didn't go out and sign him to split the load with Ronald Jones or to even be the backup to Ronald Jones. So I think Fournette's going to be the guy it's run to something to keep an eye on, and probably a reason to not be on Ronald Jones. And I really like Chris Godwin this week, even as a one-off. I don't see myself really stacking this game except for maybe 1 or 2 just because it's the highest scoring game of the week. The highest total on the slate, I should say.
I don't think it'll end up the highest scoring game.
But
I don't know if it'll be a scoring game. I don't know if it'll be the highest scoring game of that start time.
At 4 o'clock.
I think the Jets Dolphins outscores this game.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, I really like Chris Godwin. Godwin. In the 2 games that he's played so far, it's been clear that he's the number 1 guy over Mike Evans. I believe it was that Denver game, the last one that Godwin played. That was the Evans had the infamous 2-2-2 line. So that's something to look out for here. It's a small sample, but when him and Evans are both on the field, and same sentiment as AJ Brown. Godwin at 6. You got me?
Yeah, you're back now. Your sound's going in and out.
Oh,
you're good now.
And Godwin at 6,400, I think he's just criminally underpriced again. I mean, Godwin's got the upside of a player that can be priced at 8,000 when he's at the top of his game, like we saw last year. So I think Godwin's just a great play at that price point. Make sure you've got enough exposure to him as well.
If this Miami game outscored Green Bay Tampa Bay game, we're going to take so many victory laps. We're going to look so good at Bankster. We're going to make so much money. Because I just think that's what I'm glad we both feel the same way about this game. Sean, do you feel similarly that this is just a game that I think that the total's wrong? I just think it's wrong.
Yeah, I think the Jets in Miami could be sneaky, and then the Jets. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with. So I wrote up Chris Godwin and Tyler Johnson this week in this slot. I included Johnson in case Godwin were not to play. Because if that was the case, I would automatically pivot to Tyler Johnson, and then I would use that savings to upgrade at another position. I think Jair Alexander is going to erase Mike Evans out of this game. I think Mike Evans is going to be a huge bust, like 2-2-2 or 0-0. Like I don't think Mike Evans will do anything in this game, and I think Brady's going to have to look in the slot, which he should anyway. Because the matchup in the slot is going to be it's juicy against Chandon Sullivan from the Packers. He's given up 7 catches for 100 yards already out of the slot. He's only been targeted 11 times, but they rotate a few guys in and out of there. But I love Godwin. If Godwin plays, I will have exposure to him for sure. And if Godwin weren't to go, love Tyler Johnson, because they ran Tyler Johnson out of the slot last week, and we saw what he did against the Bears. He actually had himself a pretty solid out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere sort of thing. Scotty Miller was outside, so I expect that sort of to continue. Scotty Miller's going to play, so I love me some Godwin as well. I agree with Michael on that one for sure. And like I said, if Godwin isn't out, just lock Tyler Johnson in and then fiddle with your lineup somewhere else, and then go from there. But I'll do a little more digging on that. We'll have some more injury clarity on Sunday before our lead up to lock live stream on Sunday. So we'll get your cash cores from each of you guys, and then we'll get out of here. Michael, what do you want to give us your cash core?
You can start with Doug. Actually, I gotta find where I put it. Sorry.
All good.
Do you have your cash core up, or you have your ready to go? Or
I do. Let's cash core it. My cash core, and I've alluded to a lot of them. I've pretty much given the whole cash lineup as the art as we've where I'm at right now. We'll talk about that Sunday like we did last week. But right now, my cash core, and this is pretty hard for me to get off these guys. Alexander Madison going to be super highly owned. Great matchup. Don't see how you can fade him in cash right now. Mike Davis, just the floor is so high. Even a rougher potential matchup. The target volume is too high. He's getting so many snaps. AJ Brown because of the price point and the volume, and I mean Jamison Crowder. If Jamison Crowder's under 6,500, he's probably going to be in my cash lineup every week going forward. Why wouldn't we dig in with Jamison Crowder at this point? Just gives you such a high floor. So it's Madison, Davis, Crowder, AJ Brown is my core, my cash core.
Nice, Michael. What do you got?
Yeah. So sorry everybody. This is almost identical. Yeah, my core is Madison, Gibson, Crowder, and AJ Brown. I just think all four the matchups are unbelievable. The two receivers are dramatically underpriced. And I think Gibson's a little underpriced as well. And again, with that workload at 5,500, it's exactly what we want in a running back. And he catches passes, so he checks all the boxes. I think it's like last week. I think it's my eyes silly not to use him.
Nice. That will do it for us for week 6 of the NFL. He is Doug, the founder Shane, at Bankster17 and at Bankster DFS on Twitter. He is Michael Gutadero, the Big Guta, on Twitter. I am Sean Goodwin at Big Number 55. And always, just remember, get everything from Bankster, just at BanksterDFS.com, $3.99 a week. Gets you everything we do. Soccer is getting ramped up. We have Jeff Kaminsky, Soccer Render of the Year. We got Euro League covered. We got it all. Best Slack chat in the industry. Hop on now. You get set up for week 6. And we will see you again Sunday morning for the live stream lead up to lock. Peace.